These fun realities, approximately from everything from the universe to the inward workings of your body, will blow your mind. One of the leading things around being a human being is collecting all sorts of arbitrary information and trivia all through our lives. Irregular fun realities are incredible for breaking the ice, inspiring a date, and winning a pub test. But there's you do not ought to have a utilize for these small goodies of mind-blowing data to create knowing them beneficial. Fair observing these completely irregular actualities around science, history, nourishment, celebrities, your body, the universe, and more will make your jaw drop at slightest once. Number 1. More human twins are being born presently than ever before. Do you get the feeling that there are more twins around these days than there used to be? No? Well, you ought to, since concurring to an unused think about within the journal Human Generation, the twinning rate has expanded by 1/3 since the 80s, up from 9 to 12 twins per 1,000 deliveries. Right now, that includes up to almost 1.6 million twins born each year over the world, meaning 1 out of every 42 babies could be a twin. Making a difference drive usually the expanding utilization of medically helped generation, and the delay in childbearing. Twinning has been found to extend with a mother's age. You won't accept, but they're true. Number 2. The first person convicted of overspeeding was going 8 miles per hour. According to Guinness World Records, the first person to be charged with speeding was Walter Arnold of the English village of Paddock Wood, Kent. On January 28, 1896, Arnold was spotted going 4 times the speed limit in his 19th-century Benz, but since the speed limit at the time was just 2 miles per hour, that meant he was not going too fast by today's standards. The constable had to chase him down on his bicycle, issuing a ticket for £4.07 and earning Arnold the speedy distinction. Number 3. New car smell is the scent of dozens of chemicals. Few odors are as pleasing as new car smell, and not just because it's nice to be in a brand new car. But while the scent may be strangely satisfying, the fact is that it's pretty much just a combination of 50+ chemicals, known as volatile organic compounds, that are released into the car, decaying quickly over time. The concentrations found in a typical new car aren't dangerous, but among the vox that make up much of that new car smell are those found in nail polish, auto fuel, and petroleum. Number 4. The world wastes about 1 billion metric tons of food each year. Food waste is a huge problem. How big? About 931 million metric tons. That's how much food that researchers with the United Nations estimate was wasted in 2019, according to the Food Waste Index Report 2021, which surveyed 54 countries, finding that the majority of wasted food, 61%, comes from homes, while restaurants and other food services produce 26% of wasted food. Grocery stores make up just 13% of food waste. Number 5. The severed head of a sea slug can grow a whole new body. It sounds like something out of a horror film, but it's all too real. The Elysia cf. marginata, a type of sea slug, has been found to not only survive decapitation, but to be able to grow a whole new body from it. Ecologists at Nara Women's University in Japan found that, a few hours after having their heads severed from their bodies, the snails' heads were already nibbling on algae as if nothing had happened. In about 20 days, 1/3 of the sea slugs studied had fully grown back their bodies, heart included. Number 6. Hair and nails grow faster during pregnancy. A surprising side effect of pregnancy is that nails and hair grow faster than usual. This is due to changes in hormones as well as increased blood circulation and metabolism supplying nutrients. According to Amy O'Connor, writing for What to Expect, a pregnant person's hair also might feel thicker and look more shiny and healthy than usual. Though she warns that it can occasionally mean that the expecting may suddenly sprout strands in places they'd rather not. Number 7. The world's smallest reptile was first reported in 2021. Those who think everything on the planet has already been discovered might just not be looking close enough. A tiny chameleon discovered in northern Madagascar and measuring just 28.9 millimeters is believed to be the smallest reptile on Earth. The dwarf chameleon was recently discovered and reported in the January 2021 issue of Scientific Reports. But there's one thing about these critters that's big for its size. The genitalia of the males measures almost 20% of its body length, Number 8. Many feet bones don't harden until you're an adult. Feet are enormously complex parts of the body. Each foot contains 26 bones, as well as 33 joints and 19 muscles, which work together to allow for a huge range of motion and movements. But many of these bones remain cartilage throughout a person's childhood, slowly ossifying into bone as the years go on. According to the Ontario Society of Chiropodists, all of the bones in the foot don't completely harden until a person is about 21 years old. Isn't it interesting? Number 9. Some sea snakes can breathe through their skin. You might think that it's just fish that have gills, but there are several species of sea snake that breathe through their skin as well. For example, the Hydrophis cyanocinctus has been found to breathe through the top of its own head. It has a small hole and collection of blood vessels at the top of its head for picking up oxygen from the seawater and sending it to the reptile's brain while it moves underwater. Number 10. The heads on Easter Island have bodies. The iconic stone heads protruding from the ground on Easter Island are familiar to most, but many don't realize what lies beneath the surface. In the tens, archaeologists studying the hundreds of stone statues on the Pacific Island excavated 2 of the figures, revealing full torsos, which measure as high as 33 feet. Number 11. The moon has moonquakes just as Earth has earthquakes. The moon has, you guessed it, moonquakes. Less common and less intense than the shakes that happen here, moonquakes are believed by U.S. Geological Survey, USGS, scientists to occur due to tidal stresses connected to the distance between the Earth and the Moon. Number 12. Goosebumps are meant to ward off predators. Why do we get goosebumps? In this physiological reaction, small muscles attached to individual body hairs contract, which leads the hair to stand on end. We inherited this ability from our ancestors in part as a way for our, then, coat of body hair to capture air beneath it and in that way retain heat. But, as George A. Bubenick, a physiologist and professor of zoology at the University of Guelph in Ontario, Canada, explained to Scientific American, it also caused our ancestors to appear bigger than they were, helping to ward off predators when they were frightened or on the defense. With modern humans having less body hair, goosebumps no longer cause us to look that much more intimidating. Number 13. There's no such thing as pear cider. Wait, you're probably thinking, I had pear cider last week. Actually, cider is an alcoholic beverage made from fermented apples, and only apples. Alcoholic beverages can be made from pears, but that drink is known as perry. The drink was popular in England for centuries but fell out of favor during the second half of the 20th century. That turned around in the 1990s when the drink was rebranded as pear cider. Number 14. Pineapple works as a natural meat tenderizer. The fruit is packed with the enzyme bromelain, which breaks down protein chains, making it an ideal marinade for meats when you don't have a lot of time. But for the same reason, pineapple does not work for jams or jellies, since the enzyme breaks down gelatin as well. The bromelain is so strong that pineapple processors have to wear protective gloves. Otherwise, over time, the enzyme eats away at the skin on their face and hands, leaving dry skin and small sores. Number 15. Humans are the only animals that blush. We are also believed to be the only animal that feels embarrassment, a complicated emotion requiring understanding others' opinions and other factors. Charles Darwin called blushing the most peculiar and most human of all expressions, while Mark Twain said, "Man is the only animal that blushes. Or needs to." Number 16. The feeling of getting lost inside a mall is known as the Gruen transfer. We've all heard how casinos are designed to deliberately disorient visitors, causing them to lose track of time and where exactly they are. But did you know that there's a similar strategy behind the design of shopping malls as well? Officially known as the Gruen transfer, this phenomenon was named after Austrian architect Victor Gruen, who identified how an intentionally confusing layout could lead to consumers spending more time and money in a shopping venue, though he would later disavow the approach. Number 17. The wood frog can hold its pee for up to 8 months. Talk about having to go. Wood frogs in Alaska have been known to hold their urine for up to 8 months, sticking it out through the region's long winters before relieving themselves once temperatures increase. The urine actually helps keep the animal alive while it hibernates, with special microbes in their gut that recycle the urea, urine's main waste, into nitrogen. Number 18. The hottest spot on the planet is in Libya. Specifically, the hottest spot ever recorded on Earth is El Azizia, in Libya, where a temperature of 136 degrees Fahrenheit was recorded on September 13, 1922. While hotter spots have likely occurred in other parts of the planet at other times, this is the most scorching temperature ever formally recorded by a weather station. Wrinkle your brain yet? Number 19. You lose up to 30% of your taste buds during flight. This might explain why airplane food gets such a bad reputation. The elevation in an airplane can have a detrimental effect on our ability to taste things. According to a 2010 study conducted by Germany's Fraunhofer Institute for Building Physics, the dryness experienced at a high elevation as well as low pressure reduces the sensitivity of a person's taste buds to sweet and salty foods by about 30%. Add that dry cabin air affects our ability to smell, and our ability to taste is reduced further. Number 20. Your nostrils work one at a time. When we breathe in and out of our nose during the day, one nostril does most of the work at a time, with the duties switching every several hours. This nasal cycle is dictated by the same autonomic nervous system that regulates heart rate, digestion, and other unconscious bodily functions and is the reason why, when our nose gets stuffed up, it does so one nostril at a time. Number 21. Only two mammals like spicy food: humans and the tree shrew. While humans have long had the rare distinction of being the only mammal that actually enjoys spicy food, that list has seen a new addition, as a study by Chinese researchers found that tree shrews have a mutation in their ion channel receptor, TRPV1, which makes it less sensitive to the hot chemical in chili peppers. As a result, the adorable critters happily gobbled up corn pellets laced with capsaicin, the compounds that give peppers their spice, while other mammals in the study avoided them. Number 22. A chef's toque contains 100 folds. Most diners are too busy looking at their food to look all that closely at what the preparer is wearing, but the toque, the traditional hat worn by chefs, actually contains exactly 100 folds. This is not just a nice, round number. It is said that these folds represent the number of ways to cook an egg, though an investigation by Bon Appetit failed to track down where that saying originated. Number 23. Rabbits can't puke. Unlike cats or other animals that can cough up hairballs when they digest too much fur and other indigestible materials, rabbits are incapable of spewing. Their digestive system only goes one way, so the furry critters swallow plenty of roughage, which keeps things moving in the right direction. Number 24. The M's in M&M stand for Mars and Murray. That would be Forrest Mars and Bruce Murray, the two businessmen who created the candy-coated chocolates. The two actually had a very contentious relationship, as Mars leveraged Murray out of his 20% share in the company in 1949, years before M&M's would become the best-selling candy in the U.S., paying him just $1 million for a share of business that would quickly be worth billions. Number 25. The human body literally glows. It might be hard to see with your naked eye, but everyone you pass by every day is literally glowing. The human body emits a small quantity of visible light, visible in the technical sense. The illumination is about 1,000 times less intense than levels of light that we would actually be able to see. Researchers in Japan used a special camera to track this glow and found that it fluctuates throughout the day, with the body emitting its lowest levels of light around 10 a.m. and highest at around 4 p.m., a rhythm the scientists attribute to the changes in one's metabolism. Number 26. Copper doorknobs are self-disinfecting. Copper and its alloys, such as brass, have long been popular materials for manufacturing doorknobs. It turns out, this may not just because the metal's hue makes it look nice. In fact, the material has been found to kill bacteria. According to one study from the National College of Kathmandu in Nepal, the metal ions denature protein of the target cells by binding to reactive groups, resulting in their precipitation and inactivation. The high affinity of cellular proteins for the metallic ions results in the death of the cells due to cumulative effects of the ion within the cells. In other words, brass sterilizes the bacteria that can build up from all those, potentially unwashed, hands that grip it. Number 27. Cotton candy was invented by a dentist. It is not known whether William Morrison had an ulterior motive for inventing the soft confection, but the dentist no doubt helped ensure others in his profession continued drawing in plenty of customers. In 1897, he partnered with candy maker John C. Wharton to develop the cotton candy machine, which at the time was known as fairy floss, and it's been bringing kids cavities ever since. Number 28. Marie Curie is the only person to earn a Nobel Prize in 2 different sciences. The pioneering researcher won the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1903, shared with her husband, for her study of spontaneous radiation, and then won the Nobel Prize in Chemistry in 1911 for her work in radioactivity. That makes her one of just 6 recipients to receive multiple Nobel Prizes, and the only person to receive it in 2 different sciences. Chemical engineer Linus Paulding earned a Nobel Chemistry Prize and Nobel Peace Prize, but all other multiple winners received theirs in the same category. Number 29. Fingernails don't grow after you die. Despite what you may have seen on other lists of random trivia, your fingernails and hair do not, in fact, continue to grow after you die. To grow, these must have a steady supply of glucose, which is cut off after the heart stops beating, preventing any further growth. In fact, the skin around the hair follicles and nails dehydrates after death and partly retracts, which can make them appear longer. Number 30. The English word with the most definitions is set. According to Guinness World Records, set has the largest number of meanings of any word in the English language, with 430 different senses listed in the 1989 edition of 2nd edition of the Oxford English Dictionary. The word sets the record with an entry running 60,000 words, or 326,000 characters, and no other English word has come close since. Number 31. Pigeons can tell the difference between a painting by Monet and Picasso. In a 1995 study published in the Journal of Experimental Analysis of Behavior, researchers reported being able to train pigeons to discriminate between paintings by Claude Monet and Pablo Picasso when shown slides of their works that they had previously never seen before. When the Picasso images were inverted, the little art connoisseurs could still tell it was a Picasso. Maybe that's why they like landing on statues so much. Number 32. The dot over the lowercase I, or J, is known as a tittle. That tiny dot above lowercase I and J letters has an actual name, Tittle. It is thought that the phrase to a T is actually derived from the phrase to a tittle, a phrase that was used in the same sense dating back to the early 17th century. The first recording of the phrase is in the 1607 play Woman Hater by Francis Beaumont and John Fletcher, in which the line reads, "I'll quote him to a tittle." Number 33. Chewing gum boosts concentration. Next time you are having trouble focusing, you might want to reach for a stick of gum. A 2013 study in the British Journal of Psychology found that those subjects who chewed gum while taking part in a memory challenge were able to stay focused for longer periods of time than those who did not chew gum. Number 34. Superman didn't always fly. The original comic book Superman could leap tall buildings in a single bound. But then he had to come right back down to Earth because he didn't fly. It wasn't until the 1940s, when animators for a new animated series decided it would be too difficult to routinely draw him bending his knees, that it was decided that Superman could take off into the air. Readers got to see smooth animation, and a superhero gained a new power. Number 35. The first computer was invented in the 1940s. These days, supercomputers are everywhere and they really don't need much space at all. Have an Xbox One posted up in your living room? That's a supercomputer. A laptop-tablet hybrid in your bag? That's a supercomputer, too. Don't even get us started on the thing in your pocket. But when supercomputers first came around, they needed much, much more space. Just take a look at the world's first one, the Electronic Numerical Integrator and Computer, ENIAC. Originally built at the University of Pennsylvania's School of Engineering, in 1946, ENIAC weighed 60,000 pounds and took up a room larger than most studio apartments, 1,500 square feet. Shortly after construction, ENIAC was sent off to the military, where it was used to calculate ballistic trajectories launching missiles with frightening accuracy. Today, computer experts at Penn credit ENIAC with heralding in the dawn of the information age. Number 36. Space smells like seared steak. When you see footage of astronauts floating peacefully in space, do you ever wonder, what do space smells like? Well, according to some former astronauts, space does have a distinct odor that hangs around post-spacewalk. They've described it as hot metal, or searing steak. Number 37. The longest wedding veil was the same length as 63.5 football fields. When Maria Paraskeva, a woman from Cyprus, got married in August 2018, her goal wasn't just to say, "I do." She was also determined to set a record. "My dream as a child has always been to break the Guinness World Record title for the longest wedding veil," she explained. She fulfilled her dream by wearing a lace veil that stretched 22,843 feet and 2.11 inches, or as long as 63.5 football fields. Number 38. The unicorn is the national animal of Scotland. While Scotland proudly boasts the Loch Ness Monster, one of the world's most famous fabled creatures, the country opted to make another mythical beast its national animal, the unicorn. Although this might seem like an odd choice, Visit Scotland explains that unicorns played an integral role in the country's history. Back in the 12th century, William I used the proud beast in the Scottish royal coat of arms. Number 39. Bees sometimes sting other bees. Bees are notorious for their stings, but humans aren't the only ones who experience this pain in the neck, or the arm, or the leg. In protecting their hives from outsiders, some guard bees will stay by the entrance and sniff the bees that come in, says Mary Ann Peso from the biology department of Macquarie University. If there's a rogue bee from another hive trying to steal some nectar, the guard bee will bite and even sting the intruder. Number 40. Kids ask 300 questions a day. A 2013 UK study from online retailer Littlewoods.com observed young children and recorded the questions they asked the adults around them. The children tended to turn to their mothers for answers, and these moms could end up answering an average of nearly 300 questions per day, or one question every 2.5 minutes, the study found. The moms reported that the hardest questions they were asked included, "Why is water wet?" and "What are shadows made of?" Number 41. The total weight of ants on Earth once equaled the total weight of people. Entomologists have estimated that there are at least 1 million trillion insects and only 1% of that number is ants, according to the BBC. And if you took all those ants, about 10,000 trillion, and put them on one side of a giant scale, you could almost put all of the people in the world onto the other and balance things out. Unfortunately, as humans have become heavier, this probably wouldn't hold up today. But it once did. Francis Rotnieks, professor of apiculture at the University of Sussex, told the BBC this might have held true around 2,000 years ago. Number 42. E is the most common letter and appears in 11% of all English words. Try writing out a few sentences, anything at all. Now take a minute to look at how frequently each letter in the alphabet appears. Chances are you'll see a lot of the letter E. That's because the commonly used vowel appears in around 11% of all words in the English language, according to Oxford dictionaries. The next most popular letter was A, which appears in around 8.5% of all words. The least common letter is Q, which appears in just 0.2% of words. Number 43. A dozen bodies were once found in Benjamin Franklin's basement. But were you aware of the fact that multiple skeletons were found in the basement of Benjamin Franklin's London home? The bones were discovered during a 1998 renovation of the house and were identified as being from nearly a dozen people, including 6 children. The most plausible explanation is not mass murder, but an anatomy school run by Franklin's young friend and protege, William Hewson, wrote The Guardian. That's not to say there wasn't any funny business going on. The resurrection men could deliver bodies stolen from graveyards to the Thames wharf at the bottom of the street, while there was a weekly public execution at the gallows on the other side of the garden wall, the publication reported. Number 44. The healthiest place in the world is in Panama. A small valley near Vulcan in Panama has garnered the distinction of being the world's healthiest place to live, according to a 2018 report by International Living. Called Shangri-La Valley, The area is home to beautiful scenery, a low cost of living, and a significantly longer life expectancy than the surrounding areas. All in all, the world's healthiest areas have some common factors, according to the ranking: a warm climate, an active social scene, healthy food, and a slower pace of life that makes for less daily stress. Number 45. A pharaoh once lathered his slaves in honey to keep bugs away from him. The pharaohs of ancient Egypt were believed to be literally divine. The word pharaoh itself means great house, as in the house of God. In fact, King Pepi II, who supposedly ruled for 90 years, thought so highly of himself that when he was bothered by insects, he would command that one of his slaves be covered in honey to lure the flies away from himself. Number 46. Some people have an extra bone in their knee, and it's getting more common. If you were under the impression that the human body had finished evolving, think again. It turns out that some people have a bone in their knee called a fibula. And while this particular little bone with an unknown purpose was once fading away, over the last century and a half, it's gotten more common. Back in 1875, nearly 18% of people examined had a fibula. That number dropped to 11% by 1918. However, by 2018, 39% of individuals had this mysterious bone. Number 47. Pringles aren't actually potato chips. The next time you see a can of Pringles, take a closer look. You won't see the word chip anywhere on the packaging. That's because Pringles aren't made of thinly sliced potatoes, but instead dehydrated potato flakes pressed into their signature parabolic shape. That's what makes them less greasy. But when other potato chip manufacturers complained, the Food and Drug Administration ruled that Pringles couldn't be marketed as chips. The company eventually settled on potato crisp. Number 48. There's a giant fish with a transparent head. The deepest levels of our oceans are some of the least explored areas of the planet. Because of the extreme pressure, cold, and dark at these depths, only the very strangest of creatures can survive there. These include giant tube worms, vampire squids, goblin sharks, and viperfish with teeth so long that they can't close their mouths. Perhaps the strangest, though, is the barreleye, a large fish with a completely transparent head. Number 49. There's a decorated war hero dog. While in the trenches of World War I, the U.S. 1st Infantry Division found themselves unable to communicate with other troops because shellfire had damaged the telephone wires. A young private came up with a unique solution. Rags, a mixed-breed terrier whom the soldiers had adopted in Paris, would carry the messages from one division to the next tucked into his collar. He saved many lives, and when Rags passed away in Maryland, at the very advanced age of 20, he was buried with military honors. Number 50. Showers really do spark creativity. Showers aren't just good for your hygiene, they're good for your creativity, too. For a 2012 study published in the journal Psychological Science, researchers gave volunteers creativity problems to solve followed by a period of rest. During that period, some were assigned demanding tasks, while others did simpler tasks that allowed their minds to wander, just like a shower does. Those doing the simpler tasks during the resting time were more likely to solve the original creativity problems. Thanks for watching the video. This was part 1. If you liked the video, do watch the part 2 also.